My problem is you made the point. I've known you for 4 years or so. We've been really good friends for about 10 months. But they call it autism, the spectrum, but that's just a name for kind of the idiot savants that are out there. They call it idiot savant because they're idiots in ways, but also super geniuses in others.
Yeah.
And then most people that are, Asperger's or whatever, and that's not what I would say I have. And those are just approximations of things. But it's something akin to that. Like I can have somebody tell me a bunch of numbers, and I can nail the number. But if I try to do math, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like last night, I had looked at the clock in about an hour, and I laid down on the bed, and my phone was off because I'd had it off. So I just turned it off, so it's not annoying me. And I just said, turn the phone on. It will be 10:37. Turn the phone on, 10:37. And I've done it on air for viewers. I mean, I've done it where I say Trump will announce he's the winner at 1:27, and I didn't think to say the time. It's beyond autism. It's like psychic.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so I can integrate all this information. I had a photographic memory, but from alcohol and, just as you get older, I had a totally photographic memory until about 40, 42, 43. And it was actually great when it started to slip and go away. I still have a great memory. Because before, any topic, any subject, I would suddenly, all this data I knew about it would just go, and I would start stuttering and wouldn't even know how to process it. Like even now, I got to ask a question. There's thousands of points. And I feel like I can't just tell people a one-dimensional answer.
Right.
Because everybody's controlled by one-dimensional.
Right.
But then that's how most people's brains operate as one-dimensional. As you maybe get into second, third-dimensional. And so that's really the big thing. And I don't know what it is where I have this internal clock that does that.
I mean, well, that's part of it, right? That's kind of like a human reaction to when your brain is overloaded with information that you are trying to get out, right? Like if you ask me a question, what are you doing today at work? And I'm like, okay, I can break it down into the most simplistic thing. I got to, put my work clothes on. I got to drive to work. I got to sit in my truck for a little bit, and then we're going to possibly go here for dinner later today. I can give you a direct line path. But when you're dealing with somebody that has neurodivergence, right? You're familiar with neurodivergence, right? You could potentially have ADHD. You can have autism. You're on a spectrum of some sort, right? The spectrum is very wide. I think a lot of times in society, we have misconceptions of people that are out there, right? Because we don't understand what's going on in their brain. And I think there's been a lot of people that have misrepresented you or maybe misjudged you because they don't understand how your brain works. Does that make sense? But a simple thing hey, what are you doing today at work? I can break that down very simply because I know how to break it down simply. But for people that their brain works differently like yours, where it's kind of like throwing a ton of darts at the board, and you're pulling all bits of information. I might do this, I might do that, I might do this, and then trying to get that to sync up with their mouth as they're talking.
And while you're doing that, even though I'm excited to be doing this, I'm already thinking about all the attacks going on right now.
Exactly, yeah.
And the other, and the war, and then all the other stuff is just going.
Yeah.
But to ask about that, the general public has had the corporate media and its whole agenda. That's a whole other subject. Take things out of context to try to then demonize larger issues that they're afraid of coming out. And so I realized that they take out of context what I say and try to use me as a tool against the truth by taking things out of context. That's just one layer of the deception when I'm doing all of this from a place of just trying to empower humanity, because I'm an individual, but I'm also understand we're all in a collective. So I see everybody else as basically an extension of me and vice versa. And so there's a lot of different reasons and things they do, but they're just threatened by populists and free thinkers. And so they take things out of context and they blow them up, or they just completely make up things I never did. And people have to understand that. Remember, they said Trump said the KKK are very fine people. No, he said at Charlottesville, he said, no, there were Antifa that were bad, there were KKK that were bad, but there were also a lot of people there just to see what was going on and people that didn't want our history taken down. There were very fine people in both groups, but I do not mean the KKK.
Right.
Well, they just say very fine people, KKK.
Well, they pick and choose what they want to.
And they just say it over and over again with just this, Well, it must be true. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like most of the stuff people have heard about me, it's never was said.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a great point because like you said, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years, but we didn't really become really good friends until I started training you. And so I had this idea of you based off of what the media told me, but also what I see on your show, right? But what you see on your show is like, it's not an act, but that's your show. You're expected to show up and deliver energy, right? And you're supposed to, like, you're representing the people that follow that show, right? And then you see the side that the media shows, and it's like, they're against you. It's pretty obvious. Anybody that follows Alex Jones understands that the media is completely against Alex Jones.
Well, they cherry-picked and misrepresented.
But what I'm saying is, like, there's a whole entirely different side to Alex Jones that people don't get to see. And that's what I'm glad we have you here and we're talking about this, because, like, the whole reason I wanted to pull this podcast together, and thank you for coming,
you bet.
by the way, but I wanted to show the world the side of Alex that I see, the side that has a gigantic heart. Like honestly, dude, there was the first time we met, might have been the first or the second time, we went down to Zilker Park, remember? And they're going to be shooting a documentary, and there was camera crews there, and me and you jumped in the water, and I was like...
You mean the first time you met me when we were starting to train?
Exactly. So we go down to the park, and we jump in, and we get out, and we're about to take off, and this homeless guy, I think he was from another country, he was speaking in some weird accent. He comes up, and you could tell this guy pulled an all-nighter. Like, he had raggedy clothes. He had, like, dreadlocks. He just looked like, for lack of a better word, dog shit. He's a fucking homeless guy. I mean, he comes stumbling up. He even know who the fuck you were, but he engaged you in conversation. And my experience being around people that are not celebrities, but, like, just, like, people that are in the public eye, it's typically, they're so used to this stuff happening that they'll sit there and be like, oh, thanks, but see you later, bye. Like they're usually respectful, but they'll very politely say, thanks, no thanks, I gotta go. You stopped, and this is one of the first times I ever experienced you in, like, you're in a personal setting. You stopped and you had a 10-minute conversation with this guy, and that was the first time where I was like, what the fuck? Like, I did not expect that. Like, a homeless guy in raggedy clothes, dreadlocks, dirty, he hasn't showered in 3 weeks, slurring his words, he's whatever, we all know what that is. You stopped, you engaged him. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from? Tell me about your story. For 10 minutes we stopped, and everybody in the crew was sitting there going, like, what is going on right now? Like, and that was the first time that I experienced, like, Alex Jones's real personal self, where you don't judge people, right? You have a gigantic heart, and you give the shirt off your back to anybody that asks for it. And it's like, then you see the media that vilifies you, right? And then I see you on camera, and you're representing yourself as a certain thing. And so I just think it's, like, special to be able to share to the world, like, a real personal side to you.
Here's the thing, Sean. I don't know how you quantify. Here's what happens to my 4-hour-a-day show that's designed, because that's the Forum Talk Radio. That it's basically, I'm TV on talk radio, so I can show you show you the proof, and that's where I started talk radio, and that's what it is. I just get in there with all this news, and I want to just tell people the stuff that's going on, so I try to just go through it, and because I love doing podcasts and things, it's just different and it's exciting. I don't dislike my show, but I've been doing it in that format at least 28 years, and so I've been on air 31. So to me, it's not that I even don't want to be there, but I've done it so much that it clicks in.
Yeah.
And so then I've got all this news coming in. I've already got all this news I want to cover, and then all this other news is coming in. And then I'm just trying to do the best job I can, each little piece, for whoever is interested in that information, to get my take on it. Because I'm so tired of seeing people kind of shallowly look at a subject. So I've got to try to distill all this knowledge down as quickly as I can to give them whatever the best information is. So I'm not just analyzing what the information is. I'm trying to analyze how fast can I get it out to whoever this is going to hit to wake them up, because upping our overall collective intelligence understanding is the opposite of what the globalists want to do. So yeah, my show is not it's not premeditated. I mean, what clip I'm going to play is, what guest I've got on, and what questions I'm going to ask are, but it's not like I'm saying, well, people like this, will they like that? It's mainly maybe some of the best workouts we have is when we're both tired and don't even want to do it, but we just make ourselves do it, and all of a sudden it's a great workout. I'm really powering through my own show.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, I mean, I have to say I don't enjoy it most of the time.
Yeah.
Other stuff I do enjoy. And talking to random people on the street, I enjoy. Sometimes it's sad. I got to go pick my kids up or got to go do something. So I'm like, hey, sorry, I can't talk. But no, I like talking to average people.
Yeah.
What I don't like is fake establishment people. They can be low level, high level, but think they've got it all, and they're on like a weird power trip. And you can see they're not even connected to reality. They're just in their own little delusion. But I don't care if it's some billionaire or whether it's a homeless person. I mean, if they seem interesting, and but where I was down in Houston at a federal hearing last week, and there was like a crazy Charlie Manson guy like menacing me, and I got away from him. I wasn't going to talk to that guy, because I just immediately was he just looked aggressive and was like a zombie. So it's not even really, but I certainly don't. I don't. Most of what I'm doing is outwardly projected because I see information and what's happening in the world is what's interesting me. I'm not doing a lot of retrospect about me or where I'm going or how I'm doing or any of that. I'm analyzing what I'm going to do about issues and things and things that are happening, good and bad. But I'm mainly outwardly focused.
Yeah.
And because the outward is the inward. I don't know how to explain it. It's like so I do see everybody as myself. And I mean, by that is that's why people ask me questions or, you guys are doing media stuff and it's almost frustrating because I see what you guys are doing and I have a lot of knowledge and it's good to do things your way or whatever. It's not, I'm saying you're doing bad things. It's just that I almost don't even want to start giving people advice because most people would be, oh yeah, you're doing great. You're wonderful. It's the fake thing. I don't even want to engage something if I'm not going to tell people what I really think and actually try to help them. And most people, even if they're nice people, kind of see it as helping anybody else somehow is taking away energy they have. So it's hard to quantify. It's just that I used to think growing up like everybody else was thinking like I was thinking. Like I'd be nice to people and they think, what do you want? What are you trying to get? And not everybody's like that, but a lot of them, they're like, what do you want? Why are you being nice? And I had to get older and meet mature and go, oh, that person's a sociopath because they're judging me by the way they see the world.
Right.
I mean, does that make sense?
God, that's got to be frustrating. Like,
well, it's really what gets the problem is that, like I said, any issue I look at or anything, I've got a big database in my brain on, and so anything I focus on creates this whole system of information and all the different ways you can look at each piece of that. So
so on this subject, if you could sit across from somebody that has misjudged you based off of what they see. Like, cause like, for example, in that trial, okay, the last big trial.
Show trials.
Right, show trials.
2 of them.
Right. I'm not going to name names or dates or locations for obvious reasons, but it was very apparent that certain people were upset with the way you were behaving. They thought that you weren't following proper courtroom etiquette. They thought that you weren't taking it serious, some would say, stuff like that. So if you had an opportunity to explain yourself as to why that was happening, and based off of what we've been talking about with the neurodivergence that goes on in your mind, whether it's autism, spectrum type stuff, if it's ADHD, like you have an opportunity to defend yourself to those people and to like be like, listen, I'm sorry if you viewed me the wrong way. That's not the way I am. Like if you had an opportunity to explain that, how would you?
Sure. Well, who would I be addressing? The general public or the people that ran the show trials?
Anybody that was watching it or anybody that was involved in that show trial. Anybody that was there that might have misjudged the way you were behaving. Because the side of you that I know, that's not that. And when I watch that, I'm like,
you were probably
that's not Alex being disrespectful to the courtroom. That's just Alex because that's the way his brain works. Okay. And I think you're getting mischaracterized and misjudged based off of things that are.
Are you talking about the propaganda piece? You watched that?
Potentially.
Yeah, I haven't even watched it. So I know I already read what the script was. They had scripts.
What
Yeah.
I'm saying is like there were certain courtroom proceedings where it was televised and stuff like that, where you might have came across and gave people the wrong impressions based off of what, like the way you were behaving on the stand or whatever. Like what I'm saying is like, I know you, and I know because I know the autistic side, I know the ADHD side, right? And if you had an opportunity to explain to people, okay, if I came across as a certain way sitting on the stand, this is why.
Well, you have to understand that the stuff they put on TV is all edited. And so they present a distorted thing. So I'm even responding to something that's distorted.
No, I completely understand that they're picking and choosing the clips that they decide to put, even if they don't
Well, no, if
align
somebody
with the
gets up and
question.
says, so you make it up that they're government officials involved trafficking kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you mean like the Clintons and Epstein?
Right. Yeah.
And people, or, I mean, any of that. I was already found guilty by those judges.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be found
No, I get it.
guilty, and then a jury decides how guilty.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
No, I completely
And
understand.
then when I was in first, I remember looking over at the judges the first time I saw this list of things and things they were supposed to do. And I make look over, and it's the same list. It was scripted.
Yeah.
So people ask, they only had show trials where I was already found guilty, where I was ordered to be there for a theater production. I mean, cameras, TV cameras, makeup, the judges. It was literal, like high school play. And you can't expect somebody when they're in a high school play that you don't want to be at to play along with the play. So people are like, yeah, you've called the judge a tyrant. Yeah, she's a tyrant.
Yeah, but what we're used to, because you're not the first case. We're used to people playing the game, right? We're used to people going up on that stand, taking that seat, getting questioned, and even if they know this is all for show, we're used to people going, yep,
Okay, so you're already guilty and you're ordered to be at a show trial.
Exactly.
And then you play along with it?
Because they're trying to save face. What we saw was the real raw Alex on the stand, where you're like, this is fucking dumb. Like the body language you were giving off was like, why am I here? This is like the questions that you were receiving from that lawyer, that attorney, was like basically like, come on, man. And it's like, I know you.
Well, they would do stuff like just put stuff out that just was completely untrue. It's like, respond to this.
Yeah.
Like how many times, hypothetically, how many times you raped your wife today?
Yeah.
Like, respond to that.
I just think it's a great opportunity for you to explain, like, if I came across a certain way, this is why.
It came across, however, because they took weeks of stuff and edited it down to a few minutes.
Yeah.
So,
But most people don't know that. You know that. The rest of us, the audience, doesn't know that.
if people say it came across like I didn't care, that's because it was complete distortion. So you can't watch a literal made-for-TV movie that someone's forced to participate in and then say it didn't look like he was into it because I knew it was fake. And I sat there and said that. But, of course, you never see that because they decided what you're going to see. So, again, I mean, when they had those show trials, though, it completely backfired on them with the public. I mean, they had to kill the comments online on the big site streaming it because it was like 99% was like, what is this? And then, so, I mean, people ask why I laughed when they had the verdict for billions of dollars. I mean, I've never had, $10 million. Yeah. It was just like, it was all just like, he made hundreds of millions of dollars off this. His whole career is this. Barely ever even talked about it. And it was just like all these things I did, they had no proof that I ever did. It was just like on and on. He's a villain. He's a whatever. And I'm just like, and then like a bunch of the people that had verdicts on me, I never even said their name or I didn't even know who they were. And it was like $130 million for this guy, $100 million for that guy. I don't have the money, so I'm laughing. It's like, I mean, the analogy is, you going to shoot me with 10 bullets or 5,000 bullets?
Right.
It's like, we are ordering you killed by firing squad. You will be shot 1 million times. And I was like, okay. And then they go, that's not enough. We want 2.75 trillion. That's the GDP of India. And it was just like more and more like, like scare everybody. I mean, that's what this was, is like, don't question us. Don't push against the system, or we will do a $2.75 trillion judgment.